Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Cunningham Township Board. It's Monday, November 9th, 2020. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu?
Here.
Ms. Hersey?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here. Here.
Mr. Colebrook?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mayor Marlin?
Here.
Ms. Chenoweth? Ms. Chenoweth?
Present.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Thank you. Next up is minutes from the previous meeting of October 12th. Are there any, is there a motion, please? Bill?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Moved by Bill Brown, seconded by Mary Alice. Are there any corrections? Bill?
Yeah, and the first item in new business, resolution number T 2020-10-10-019R. It had us all voting yes, but I voted no on that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll make that correction. Are there any further corrections? Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
That motion passes. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to public participation. Before we begin, I'd like to read these instructions. The city takes public comment via email, written format, and verbally. On October 12th, the Urbana City Council approved new rules for public input during remote electronic meetings. These rules are listed on each agenda for city-sponsored public meetings. Members of the public may join the meetings as either a Zoom webinar or telephone participant to make verbal input. Public input is a time for board members to listen to the public. Discussion, debate, commentary will not take place during this period. Public comments are limited to 4 minutes per person, and input will total no more than 1 hour unless shortened or extended by majority vote of the members present. The meeting chair has the option of giving priority to speakers who wish to comment on specific agenda items upon which a vote will be taken. A person may speak once during the meeting and may not cede time to another person. We ask that you address your comments to the public body as a whole, maintain respect for the process, and respect for members of the council, city staff, and general public. The meeting chair or member of the public body has the authority to call a speaker out of order for using abusive, harassing, threatening, or defamatory remarks. If the speaker refuses to cease the remarks, the meeting chair may mute the speaker's microphone. We'll ask the speaker to send the remainder of their remarks via email for inclusion in the meeting record. And the meeting record closes at adjournment of the meeting. Thank you for helping us conduct respectful and productive meetings. We'll move on to public input. Alan Axelrod.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I first wanted to thank Mayor Marlin and Township Supervisor Danielle Chenoweth for their work when it comes to trying to bring awareness to the issue of utility shutoffs in Champaign-Urbana. I also wanted to thank Julie Pride, the CUPHD administrator, as well as all the city council persons who have showed up. Sorry, alderpersons. I was just at a Bloomington City Council meeting, a little discombobulated. But I wanted to note a few things that have happened since the last time we've engaged. One of which was that we spoke to the Illinois Commerce Commission again to update them on how things were going. And that same day, they sent out a letter to all municipal and cooperative owned utilities in the state. And I'll just read the beginning and end of it real quick. It says, 2 regulatory representatives of municipal public utilities and cooperatives. And this is from the executive director of the ICC. Over the past 8 months, our state's residents have faced incredible financial challenges due to COVID-19 pandemic. The effects of the pandemic have permeated every city and community in Illinois and have left our most vulnerable residents struggling to pay their utility bills as we approach the winter months. I write today to urge you to respond to this public health emergency by ceasing residential disconnections through March 31st, 2021 for individuals who are low income or self-certify a financial or COVID-19 related hardship. The last thing that they note, I acknowledge that the commission may have little or no statutory authority over your utility or cooperative. Nonetheless, I am asking you for your help once again to show that you are all in for Illinois by implementing a disconnection moratorium through March 31st, 2021 for individuals who are low income or self-certified financial or COVID-19 related hardship. We must, and again, it said self-certify, we must continue to take proactive action to support the people of Illinois through this pandemic and health crisis. And that's signed from Christy George, Executive Director of the Illinois Commerce Commission. She sent that letter right after we had brought to her attention that not only did Wisconsin have a moratorium on corporate utilities, but they also enacted one on municipal and cooperative utilities because their COVID rate continued to rise. And there's a reason why they only sent out this letter to the municipality and cooperative owned. For one, as you heard there, they're continuing to recommend the means-tested approach despite the best available data on this matter, which comes from the Sangamon County Health Department, which had over 300 disconnections in the last week of September alone. Turns out all the 6,543 disconnections from Ameren, Illinois was a single week. They disclosed to WCIA that they did those disconnections on September 24th. And when you look at the Sangamon County Health Department's data, it shows the rate of coronavirus and the positivity rate skyrocket right after that. There is no contesting that. That said, there's also another reason why they didn't reissue any sort of statement as of yet on the corporate utilities. Going to Warren Buffett's utility in the state of Illinois, Mid-American, it reads, first in July, the commission staff asked Mid-American to consider extending its moratorium for residential customers for 30 days. Mid-American agreed to this. Commission staff made a similar request in late August. However, before the company could respond, the commission issued a letter on September 4th, 2020, signed by all 5 commissioners requesting utilities cease disconnecting residential customers for non-payment until March 31st, 2021. That was us. So anyway, I'll leave the rest of the remarks for later. Just wanted to update y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Next up is Bo Barber.
All right. Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't really quite sure to whether to present to Cunningham Township or Urbana City Council, but I just thought, either way, just make my voice heard here. So I was also going to speak about no Ameren shutoffs. So the last week, I've worked with organizers affiliated with the No Ameren Shutoffs campaign, and then in conjunction with Township Supervisor Danielle Chenoweth, after presenting to CUPHD about the number of disconnects that have already occurred, as Alan had mentioned, within the span of only 1 week. So from about the times of I think it was November 2nd to about November 4th. And I may be off by a day or two, but during that amount of time, there were over 200 disconnect notices sent out in Champaign County, and 100 of them were within the city of Urbana, the city limits of Urbana. Alongside Danielle's amazing efforts and other selfless activists going door to door and doing what they can, dropping off flyers, we've made successful contact or somewhat kind of meaningful contact with at least 30 of these people. So there's still 70 people that we haven't gotten to. Most took up conversation, but a couple of them didn't want to talk. And the one thing is sure, there may be some people that may or may not actually have a problem. Maybe they paid their bill late, or maybe they're okay, maybe they've got it. But the problem is with over 100, with over 100 people within the city limits of Urbana potentially being affected by this is a gamble to take. So to do nothing about it, and that's why we're trying to do something about it, because we can't wait to see what happens. Because if not, then worst case scenario, over 100 people get their utilities disconnected, and then to get reconnected, they have to go through all this work, and then they also have to pay late fees. People have already been disconnected; they have to go through late fees, which adds on to the initial cost that they were already having trouble with trying to get past. Fortunately, Cunningham Township has offered a lot of immediate aid, but it's still an information and fact-finding mission. We have to go out and find these folks. And so some people say, well, it's easy because all they got to do is just call, do all this stuff. But the problem is even then, for some people that called, if the story that came out in WCIA about Cedric Robinson, he called Ameren, Illinois, like he was told that would be the reasonable thing to do. And correct me if I'm wrong on it, but he called on a Friday. He asked if he could get his payment done on Wednesday instead, and they said sure. And then they promptly shut his power off on Monday. This is a major problem. And there was one other person through canvassing door to door that I won't say this person's name because they didn't agree to be outed about it. But this person was having a kind of like a anxiety, and I don't want to say like a mental crisis, but as a grad student, I can attest to the fact, sometimes I get so overwhelmed that I fail to take care of myself. And it's not this person's fault that they didn't read their mail for a couple days and then did not realize that they were about to have their power shut off. So I'll probably make some comments later in this Urbana City Council on further things, but I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention, because there was 100 disconnect notices sent out in the city limits of Urbana. This is bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That looks like all the people who wanted to speak. And we'll go on to committee to verify bills.
Good evening. I just want to thank Alan and Bo and the No Ameren Shutoffs campaign for their work going door to door over this last week. We'll get to that in the supervisor's memo, but while they're on, I just wanted to thank them. Committee to verify bills. So this last month, you can see our town fund had $47,645.83 in expenditures. Our general assistance fund had $72,669.45 in expenditures. That was a total of $117,964.10. And I just made a note that about $2,350 of that, $2,350 was interest in the Carl case payment as per your resolution. We are seeing, the participant list bumps up and down. We're at 139, up from 134 last month. I was just looking in June, we were at 150. I think the highest we've gotten under COVID is 155. We closed 3 cases, we opened 8. We are definitely seeing more people get Social Security reimbursements, so that has really helped our numbers. We also receive a reimbursement, or they get on Social Security and we receive a reimbursement. We are seeing people going back to work. A lot of the folks who came onto our rolls were folks who were laid off due to COVID and did not have cash in the bank or some kind of cushion. We have 60 homeless. That's been pretty standard. more men than women. The average age has gone down. That I think shows the number of workers. So I think in the past we've been, average age 48, 47. We're now at about 44. We wanted to reopen the community work program starting in November because of the COVID transmission cases. We're not reopening that in November or December. So we're really gonna have to see some improvement in our COVID transmission to open that up. We are continuing to have our participants submit documentation, pay stubs, continue to seek work. We continue to support them in that process. And then rental assistance, we were able to move 6 rental assistance cases up from 4 last month. And we are looking to relax some of the rules and increase the assistance. We are referring COVID impacted Urbana residents to the city of Urbana. We've set up a pretty good partnership there. We're in pretty regular contact with the grants administrators to use funds when it's COVID impacted and they may not income qualify. So that's going well. And then I started this additional assistance list in part because we're just seeing a lot of unusual cases that don't fit the programs. And so we have really been working hard to move general assistance participants into housing. This is a public safety issue. We've been working hard on it, launched it under COVID and have moved 7 so far. We did start an emergency housing program, first with money from YWCA and now from our Angel Donor Fund. We have 2 rooms for people who are families who are literally homeless with no other place to go. We do diversion counseling. We work closely with Crisis Nursery and the school district, and they need to have children either at Crisis Nursery or the school district approve residency. So, and then we've been helping people with application fees and other things. Those are small amounts. And then I didn't add it at the time, but we have been helping people with utility assistance. If they are shut off and doubled up, it is not safe for people to be doubled and tripled up right now. And if we're able to, we turn their utilities back on within an hour of them calling, as long as we can verify their Urbana residence. So we've helped several families with children do that because of the utility shut off. I will keep the rest for my supervisor's memo update, but that's kind of the town bills and some of the breakdown in terms of what we spent money on this last month. Happy to take any questions folks have.
Bill Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. In our packet, we didn't get the same kind of detail that we usually get. The bills and payroll, we received payroll and some bills, but nothing about the general assistance. But I did notice in the payroll that the item for the salaries other is still creeping up. I know you guys have taken on a lot more. So our total budget for that was like $289,000. It looks like at this rate, it'll be closer to 360 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we need to do a budget amendment or?
So to answer your first question, I'm not really sure. We submitted the summary and the general assistance, but so I usually look at what I submitted you, but I just pulled up what's on the website and you're correct. So my suggestion is if I could send you all so that you have a complete, you could bump that maybe down on the agenda so that you have access to it. I apologize. I don't know what happened.
I mean, I think mostly I would look at for your totals anyway, but it would be nice to have it so that we compare it month to month.
Absolutely. So the second piece is I will be talking about this in the supervisor's memo, but basically, as we discussed, we have $220,000 in CURE Act funding. A lot of that money goes to staff. We were dying in August, like I was going to lose staff, how hard they were working. I hired interns on his staff. I basically moved 3 interns who were high-performing interns into staff positions. It is 100% reimbursed through CURE Act funding. We're submitting our first reimbursement this Friday. I actually hope with disability reimbursements being at such a high level, we anticipate $50,000 in disability reimbursements this year. We budgeted for 20, I believe 20,000, 20 or 25,000. That pays for a full-time disability advocate who I need, and it pays for itself through that piece. So I've not made a final decision on that, but I'm hoping to retain that person, and that it all comes through that funding item. The second person is a housing advocate who created the Bridge to Home program that is funded 100% through the ESG funds. Those funds, it's actually in your packet tonight that will be, you'll be hopefully allow me to accept those funds and sign an agreement with the city of Urbana. The entire salary item is paid for by those funds if we receive both round 1 and round 2, and we have no reason not to receive that. So the first round will pay for her time now, and the second round will pay. So all of this is new money. It's not money. So I absolutely, just with the both of those dollars, and then we received the Midwest Alliance grant of $10,000, totally unexpected funds. So I use those monies to support bringing on a person for this semester. So essentially, I'm very pleased that we've been able to staff up. I do not expect that we'll actually be dipping into our township dollars for those staff lines because of those new monies. And I am going to have to bring a budget amendment. Any one of those large grants would have triggered that. So basically, I'm waiting for the state to, to move on this, the ESG funds, and then we're in a position to do a budget amendment. So maybe January might be a good estimated time for that.
Okay, so it sounds like if there's a budget amendment, it'll be basically budget neutral because they'll be bringing in money and the same money.
Yeah, in fact, I think it'll be better than budget neutral.
Awesome.
I mean, we're looking at a deficit that I am not happy with this year. That's what you approved as a budget. And I believe that we've been able to fundraise to reduce that deficit. So yeah, I think it'll be better than neutral. But who knows what the future has in store. It's not sure from a day-to-day basis.
Kind of related to that, with the extra people, are there, how many people physically are in the building at a time? And the reason I'm asking is I know some of that grant money is meant to cover any physical improvements you need to make in the building. And one of the things that you could do would be to improve filtration and circulation of the air if there's more people working in there. Yeah, actually,
I mean, the township building has, when I came, it had 8 workspaces and 8 staff, 4 on the assessor side, 4 on the supervisor side. We reorganized that using the conference room to 13 workspaces. As of this spring, between the assessor and myself, and this is mostly me, I have 14 full-time equivalents. The assessor will have 5, going down to 4 after the quad year reassessments. We have 19 full-time equivalents. So no, it's not safe to have 19 people in that building, and we don't. And I will be discussing a little bit later some of the space constraints we're under, and I have a chart to show you what juggling 19 people in a small building looks like. So, so we are purchasing HEPA filtration in the 3 main rooms. And I've done a lot of research because, this is a time when you could buy a lot of useless things that people are marketing to you. So all of that will be funded by Cure Act funding, but ultimately what's really safe is masks at all times, at least 6 feet, and my preference is 8 feet, and good air filtration without a lot of air that's moving during the day. So according to public health, you really want to move and filter the air at night or after hours. So that's what we're working on, putting on a timer.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I just want to add that there is still, as we go back and look at things that are reimbursable from the last fiscal year, there is a good chance that it could be more than budget positive. So it's just a matter of us looking through line by line and making sure we get everything reimbursed that we possibly can.
Yep. That's what my days are. basically my days are going and coming through payments and submitting things to portals at DCO. So that's my life right now.
Any other questions? Is there Jared?
I was just gonna, unless we want to wait until we get that, I was just gonna move to approve the town fund and the general assistance fund.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll do that then, Dennis.
Moved by Jared, seconded by Dennis. Is there further discussion?
Can-
Wayne?
Yeah, just so you know, the township operates under a different set of budget rules than the city. So it's not so much a budget amendment that'll happen as you guys will have to pass a brand new budget. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. Reports of officers.
So let's see. I was so flummoxed by the bills thing. I just sent you all the bills that I sent, the exact same email. So, okay. So first off, I just want to say thank you, Urbana voters, and thank you, Town Board, for your confidence in our work. I was pleasantly surprised by 63% of Urbana voters, almost 64% voting yes to allow for an increase in the property tax levy. I put the presentation I gave you is on our website and has been on throughout. And I feel like Urbana voters are very intelligent. We're able to look at the details, and even, though these are hard times, they, open their hearts and we're willing to increase the tax levy by an average of $3 per month per household. So I am working with a team of interns. I have a capstone master's degree student from urban planning and another urban planning student, and then a staff member, Tomas, in my office, who's about to get his master's degree in May. And we are working on a strategic plan for Township. So I hope to bring a draft to you this winter, and we have our annual town meeting in the spring, and I will bring it to that town meeting in the spring so that it's really clear what the intention is with that levy and increase and what people can expect from it over multiple years. As the Bo and Ellen mentioned, utility shutoffs has been a big issue this last week. We thought it would just be the tax levy, but no, we had to have many things happen in 1 week. So as wearing my hat as board chair of the public health department, Julie had requested, and the board was interested in discussing the utility shutoffs that were pending. And so we had a fruitful discussion at the board meeting, decided to send a letter from CU Public Health, again, asking the governor, as both mayors have done, to enact a moratorium on utility shutoffs. And I think what made it very real is that in the month of November, unlike September and October, according to the Public Utilities Act, the Public Health Department receives a list of every name and address of people facing utility shutoffs due to non-payment. We had 98 households in the township alone, and a number right outside the township, total of over 200 Champaign County residents on this list. We received the list from Ameren Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They sent it in pieces. We compiled it thanks to Bo's help, actually compiled it into one list. I shared it with the mayors so they would be aware. The township, basically, I reallocated a bunch of intern time last week to mail every single person. I personally canvassed people on Tuesday because I thought that I just wanted to know how accurate this list was and what the situation was. So I went to East Urbana. Dennis, I was over at your district, and I knocked on doors in East Urbana, and spoke with a number of people. I spoke with a woman in her early 80s who had no idea this was happening, a woman who was dealing with domestic violence. We had a very long and productive conversation. I helped to direct her. And I spoke with a family. And then since then, because of our flyering, we've been receiving calls, probably about 2 or 3 a day. And I have been checking to, based on their situation, is it feasible to go ahead and try to get them to apply for LIHEAP? One family had applied for LIHEAP, but they did not have physical Social Security cards, which are required to apply for LIHEAP. And it's very difficult to get those during a pandemic, so they did not get, so I paid, angel donors paid their bill. So anyway, we've been working on this piece, but it is really a serious public health problem. There, I got stories on Fox News and Channel 3 about it, and I have circulated a petition, which we will be sending tomorrow, and we're at 222 responses. And I mostly sent it to the Human Services Council, the homeless service providers, and local public officials. Certainly anyone can sign it, but that was the target. So if you haven't signed it already, I will send it to you during this meeting. So if you would like to sign it, you can. And I really, I cannot underestimate the impact on the COVID surge that we're experiencing locally by forcing people to double and triple up. It is just a really awful situation for people to deal with right now. Just a few other things that I will not go over my whole memo, which is long. I'm extremely proud of our housing advocacy team. The interns, we have 18 applications submitted. There were 2 subsidized housing opportunities that were very, very short. We had 74 calls for Haven Flats and 40 calls made for Oakwood Trace. We've continued to work with people on their Social Security payments, and we see the dividends pay off on that. And we have helped over 2,000 residents be fed through the Bucket Brigade. And we have closed our season of vegetables. There actually is still some kale in the garden. If you want to go pick it, it's there, and some chard. But generally speaking, we made 32 donations throughout the season of fresh vegetables. And thanks to Urbana Park District for offering us the Victory Gardens plots, we are able to really almost triple the volume of produce we are able to produce with our intern and volunteer team. We had a great volunteer team that helped to support our intern. We continue to see about 1 call every 6 minutes. We have about over 160 applications picked up per month. We did mail a postcard to every household in Urbana with a few exceptions, and it was about 20,000 households. So very happy to let folks know about a host of resources. And I think that's it for my supervisor memo. Wayne, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I'll keep it brief. We had approximately 289 assessment appeals. We're down to resolving the last 98 of them. We're working every day to do that. Depending on how things go in the next couple of weeks, I may have resolutions to intervene and some in PTAB. So I'll keep you guys posted.
Okay, any questions? Mary Alice.
Thank you for the update, Danielle. I have 2 questions. One, we've been talking a lot about Ameren. I'm wondering if you have any updates in terms of the Illinois water, if there are shutoffs pending for that.
It's a really great question. I think I know that it's also a voluntary shutoff with water, and I don't think we received the same notifications, but I have a note in about that. So I think, obviously power and water are both essential, and I've been chasing the Ameren shutoffs from that list last week. I don't have a good update for you.
Do they have the same obligation to inform the public health district about pending?
They do not. The No Ameren Shutoffs campaign reports that there's shutoffs in Champaign, but we don't receive notification at the public health district that I'm aware of.
So what rule allows for public health to receive those notifications?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Can you ask me that question again?
Yeah, no problem. So what is in place that allows public health to be notified of Ameren disconnection?
Yeah, it's the Public Utilities Act, which I would love to have a moment to actually read. The Public Utilities Act is the entity that says from November through March, Ameren must notify within 24 hours of shutoff addresses of where they're going to be doing shutoffs. And actually, in speaking with public health, my understanding is that's largely done for their HIV positive work. So they really used it to identify as someone who is HIV positive, are they about to have their power shut off, and what does that mean? But we've now expanded that with, CU Public Health has very much embraced wanting to take a more expansive look at, how to use that list and to support it. So I know the city of Champaign did do mailings of the first list that I sent them. They mailed to folks. We, like I said, mailed, but I would love to get some information about the water shutoffs and report back to you.
Okay, so it sounds to me like the Public Act on utilities doesn't cover water, it only covers power. Is that accurate?
I am not aware of water shutoffs being sent to CU Public Health, and I think I would have been made aware. That's
okay. All right. My second question has to do with the additional assistance that you've been giving households for homeless. And so right now we have 60 homeless people who are on general assistance. Mm-hmm. Is that number, how does that intersect with the 19 households that you helped in October? Does that mean that 19 of those households of the 60 were assisted?
So the way it works, so 18 applications for subsidized housing in October is what we do is we have a list that is only our participants. So you have to be a general assistance participant to get housing advocacy because we just don't have the resources to go beyond that. And we prioritize by the most vulnerable. So the longest they've been housed, they have a disability, there's some risk. Obviously being homeless is a risk right now, but we rank folks, and then we start at the top and have a group, different interns will case manage different folks, and we will screen for, do they have a documented disability? Are they a senior citizen? Do they have children? And then as opportunities open up, we call through everyone and help them apply. So here's the trick, Mary Alice, is if we could just take a point in time of who's homeless, and then we could just work with that population, you will see the numbers go down over time because we'll keep moving people into housing. The problem is that although we do have a rental, eviction moratorium, we're seeing an increase in domestic violence cases. So that generates a greater homeless population. And we're also seeing situations where there's family conflict that I wouldn't call a domestic violence situation, where people voluntarily separate. And so we're seeing people laid off from work, and they're not able to pay their portion of the bill with their housemate, so their housemate kicks them out, right? So these are all the kinds of loss of housing that we're seeing under COVID. We've seen several illegal loss of housing, and they both have been with the properties that lost rental assistance or lost the rental registration with the city of Urbana. We've seen 2 illegal evictions of families. So I've been working with that and Land of Lincoln. So but generally speaking, we have not seen a bunch of, we haven't seen landlords evicting folks. So as a result, we see the homeless population floating up and down, and we don't have a fixed number. What we do know is that we can take our population, we know how long they've been on our housing advocacy list, and we can reduce the people who are on that list, get them off the list and into housing. And that we've been tracking the numbers with that piece.
So is it fair to say that there are more than 60 people on that housing advocacy list?
Yes, there's 60 people plus, I would say a few, I would say I could actually look it up. I would guess it's about 75. It's everyone who's homeless. And we have some folks where they are very precariously housed, or they have some level of risk. And so we've added them to the list.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Any other questions? One thing I would add, and Danielle talked about it, what we learned last week in conversations with Ameren is November is a very critical month, because from December through March, there's a mandatory moratorium on utility shutoffs, but November is the time when the utilities are required to notify public health, and yet there's no mandatory moratorium. So that's why these shutoffs are happening September, October, and then into November. So, and it can be very cold. We've been really lucky with 70-degree temperatures, but it could be, last year we had snow. So that's
It'll be 30 on Wednesday evening.
Yeah, so November is a very critical month. Any other reports to add? Wayne or Bill, you had a question?
I just wanted to say thanks, Danielle, for really taking that up. And I think, utility shutoffs are always bad, especially bad now during COVID. But I think going forward in future years, now that we know this, we'll be able to do more in November when utility shutoff time comes around. Now that we know that the notification is there, we'll be able to get people connected with programs better, either the townships or nonprofits or whoever is able to do that. But now that we know that there's a mechanism, and I think that's great. That it's going to be there are going to be some positive things to come out of this COVID thing, but. Just thanks a lot for really getting into that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. First item is resolution number T 2020-09-012R, which is a resolution setting compensation of Cunningham Township officials for the 4-year term beginning May 15, 2021. That includes the township supervisor, town clerk, town board, and beginning January 1st, 2022 for the township assessor.
Yeah, and just a heads up, I think the clerk sent you the corrected resolution. There are 2 options on the table, and the corrected one was the 1.5%. So just make sure you're looking at those.
Is there any, Jared?
I'd go ahead and make a motion that we pass. I mean, I don't know if we need to say what the differences were between those two, the one that we have online and the other one in the motion, because we know that we have the corrected version of it going to be passed. But in any case, I'll move resolution number T-2020-09-012R for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, is there discussion?
Yeah. I have a question.
Yes.
So I know that, Daniel, you've talked about wanting to bring the salaries of the township supervisor and assessor up to more of a par with neighboring communities. Is that a concern also that you feel is like a very important thing to solve?
So
relative to where we've been before?
I addressed this in my public memo, which is on the clerk's website. And it's the reason we offer you 2 options. I think the only thing that I would speak to is, I guess I can tell my story, which is that when I was asked to run for the supervisor's position, it was a 5-figure pay decrease for me personally. And I initially said, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to take a 5-figure pay decrease. I was looking for other organizing jobs that were a little closer to home. And then I got some legal counsel to see, could I do contract work on the side to make for it, as long as I'm, fulfilling my full-time duties at the township. It is my understanding was that I could do that. Frankly, the job does not, I mean, I did contract work at some point. I certainly haven't had any time to do any of that contract work for over a year. And so I'm not going to be in this position forever. That was my opinion before I started. And I would say irregardless of the salary. So I just want to be clear about that, is I really see this as a position where I can give to my community while my son is small. And I can be close to him and close to his school. There's a personal sacrifice that comes with that. I'm fine with that sacrifice. I took that sacrifice. My concern is I am really growing the township in significant ways where it is never going to go back to being such a marginal piece of the local equation. And I feel Wayne has done the same. We really have like breathed new life into the township. And so my concern is really about kind of what happens after me. Like, will the next person who can really manage state grants, who can supervise, 14 full-time equivalents, who can manage an internship program, who can, manage a larger levy, will you be able to retain that person, paying them at a level that no other city staff member who supervises a person gets paid? That's my question to you. Your lowest paid city staff member who supervises someone other than an intern, correct me if I'm wrong, I think makes $85,000. So I just, I am fine. I feel I'm put in an uncomfortable position of having to speak about my salary. I'd prefer not to, frankly. But I guess to speak to my concern as a policymaker is that the level that the supervisor has been paid reflects the quality that you got before me in supervision. And I really think that you should, as a town board, consider making sure that you have a competitive and comparable salary structure. We put that forward with a lot of thought in terms of really trying to figure out who our comps are. We tried to do that in a very honest and authentic way because you requested it. And it shows that, that these positions are underpaid. And I think if you look at the division heads, or even the people under the division heads, or even the people under the division heads, you're still looking at salaries that are higher than what these two positions are paid. So my interest is in the sustainability of the township. And I am somebody who really, it just really disgusts me when I see public officials paid, exorbitant salaries. And so on some level, one option would be, fix it in 4 years when I'm gone, so to speak. And I'd be okay with that. But I guess I would share my picture of it as well, which is that when I came into this job, I really thought the only way I can afford it, given what I had been making and what I'm worth on the market, was to do contract work. That's where we were at. So, yeah, so that's my honest answer to your question, Dennis.
And I just want to add, I don't look at the salary as my salary. It's the assessor salary. And, there could come a time where Danielle and I are together and we're on the same bus and we get hit by a bus or whatever, or something could happen. And you guys are going to be in a position to hire somebody to fill the positions. And you all are going to be in a position, are not going to be in a position to negotiate the salary, because the salary is whatever you set it at today. And there's always talk of consolidating the township into the city, but I think we've shown through Danielle's memo that the salaries that city managers get are much higher than what we get now, and even what we've proposed on the higher end versus the lower end.
Well, I do appreciate your feedback, and I appreciate the personal story aspect to it, because it certainly makes it more real. The voters just recently increased the township's property tax limit rate, which some of that is that funding applicable to covering township supervisor and assessor salaries? It can be applied for that. Am I correct?
Well, to speak to the levy increase, we have pledged that the levy increase be used for assistance. Assistance comes in both the form of general assistance and the staff and support to administer that. I think the town board should always pay a close eye, as any board should, in the balance between administrative costs and direct assistance cost. I think if you compare us to our sister city, you should look at their budget. You'll see that our assistance that we offer is just, the percentage is so much higher a piece of the pie than our comparables. And I would like to encourage us to keep it that way. And I've worked hard to both accommodate staff's requests for, being in school and working part-time. And frankly, I think the town board has gotten a great value out of the supervisor's staff, because I have a number of people who want to work part-time and be going to school, and there's not such a high cost in terms of the benefits. So, to answer your question, yeah, I think, did Cliff Singer say, all money is green? And it's really important that you look at the whole picture and make sure that you're making judicious use of those dollars. I certainly try to use every dollar I can to serve the poor. And part of that is making sure that I have staff who are compensated adequately, have healthcare, who can do the job and are going to stick with me. And I've had I've had one staff member leave the entire time I've been working, because I hope that I've created a workplace that people really want to be at and stay at.
Okay, thank you. I think you've covered my question really thoroughly.
Mary Alice?
So, I was the one who initially started to talk about in terms of where the baseline should be. And I think one of the things that we achieved with this is putting the township supervisor and the township assessor at the same pay rate. And certainly for years that's been different. So I like that. Right now, and I just want to clarify for the public, because there were in the packet, there were two different versions of 12R. And I believe I just want to confirm that what we're talking about is the one that has the base at $68,009, and it goes up to $72,176. The other one was primarily because there was some conversation for the past couple of months in terms of where we stand with other townships and so forth. And I've had this conversation with Wayne. We do face uncertain budget times. And for example, the University of Illinois, they're not giving any raises. So I would not expect us to have any cost of living raises for the foreseeable future until something is figured out. So I think that this is a nice compromise in terms of bringing the supervisor and the assessor up to the same amount, giving a small cost of living percentage-wise for over the course of 4 years for the assessor and 5 years for the township supervisor. So that's kind of where I stand. I know I spoke last time that we were asking for taxpayers to pay more money, and thankfully they did agree to that. But I also think that we need to be cautious in terms of increasing our administrative costs, so that we really are using all those funds for the purpose that we want, which is to bring services to the community.
Sharice?
I think my question is more about the township board stipend, I guess, because I was under the impression that the township board did not take a stipend.
Yeah, so the township board 4 years ago chose to zero out its stipend. I think in prior decades it had a small stipend. And in the memo I sent last week and in the memo that is included in the packet, I argue for reinstating the compensation, partly because I feel like we're asking a lot more of you. It used to be, you may remember when town board meetings were 5 minutes, but you only were serving 26 people. You're now serving 2,000 people.
Yeah.
It looks like 2,500 this year. Right? That's Urbana residents. So your meetings are going to be longer. And my concern is that working class, fixed income student and single parent residents who provide this public service need compensation to cover their child care and time costs. And so I had suggested 60. I think last meeting you all had suggested 50. So I dropped the resolution down to that suggestion. I do want to note that you're going to have about 14 meetings a year. So because there's the annual meeting and we almost always have at least one special meeting. So that comes to $700. And for administrative purposes, we'd love to just pay that out quarterly instead of, every 2 weeks you get a tiny little check. So anyway, that is the recommendation, but it is the town board's decision on what you want to do. That is just our recommendation to you.
Also, to clear up any confusion, whoever moved it, I think probably needs to say the salaries, unless Fred thinks otherwise, for each year and position.
You mean for the stipend to increase every?
Yeah,
Well,
we
no.
don't have a motion yet on the floor.
Oh, I thought that.
Jared moved it. And I
Moved it.
Oh, okay, I didn't write that down. Okay. Moved by Jared, seconded by Bill. Okay. Jared, do you want to clarify, to clarify, you moved the resolution that has the prorated salary at $68,009 for the remainder of, from May 17th to December 31st, 2021, and then it goes from $69,030 to $72,176 for the supervisor, and the same for the assessor?
I believe so. That was my intention.
Okay. Dennis.
So as per the conversation about the township board, us as acting as township board, yeah, we were getting a stipend before. Charlie Smythe suggested that for the amount of work we were doing, he'd rather see the funds serve the community rather than to serve us, and our meetings were certainly shorter and less involved. I just will offer that I don't think that the township necessarily needs to be supported by community funds. We meet as a township sort of through the grace of the fact that we're also city council members. We do receive a stipend for that work. I would be willing to forego income as a township board member, or to reduce it to like $30 a meeting or $25 a meeting. I think that's plenty to cover the half hour, the 45 minutes that we spend talking once a month. So I would like to have a conversation about whether we can just forego being paid, or do we need to actually be paid as much as $60 or $50 a month for these meetings? To me, it seems that, and I don't have a gigantic income myself, but the idea of public service, especially at the township level, is a different one. So I'm not, I'm willing to forego it.
Jared and then Bill.
I did want to clarify. I thought that the 72 was the higher one. I meant the higher one. The one that starts with the second one with 6809, second year 75,634, and then ending with 78,910. I apologize. I thought we were talking about that one. Just to.
Can I clarify, Bill? Is that what you meant to second?
No, not at all. That wasn't the recommendation we made last meeting.
Was it? It was. Oh, okay.
So I'll withdraw my second.
Well, I guess I made that motion, so.
Is there a second for the motion for the higher salaries? Apparently that motion dies for the lack of a second. Would someone care to make a new motion? Mary Alice.
I'll make a motion for resolution number T 2020-09012R for approval, which starts the township supervisor at a prorated rate of $68,009, ends for both the township assessor and the township supervisor at $72,176 for the year of 2025.
Okay,
Second it.
so that was moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Bill Colebrook. Okay, Jared.
I did just want to bring up from Dennis's comments about the $700, as I had originally made the same comment last meeting, or whenever we last discussed this, Dennis, about thinking, that we would just forego it, because I know that I personally don't need it, but I don't remember who made the point. Maybe it was Danielle, that just because I or you or any of us in particular are in a financial situation today that we don't need to worry about those things, it would be unwise for us to make that decision for the next 4 years for the next people who may sit in these positions who may need that. And if we get it, I'm sure I can set my my direct deposit up at the township to go right into the angel donor funds, and I intend to do so should I end up serving on the town board again. So that convinced me, because I thought, well, why are we adding it? We didn't have it. We haven't had it for 4 years. We didn't need it. Why are we adding it? But I think that providing it for somebody who may need it, who may not be in our situation, and not us making the decision to take it away from them now, I think that would be unwise. So I would still support keeping it, albeit if folks want to talk about reducing it, I'm open to that. I don't think, $50 is too much, and if you want to get a good babysitter, that can certainly cost you $50 an hour. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that part.
I would also clarify that the 4th year that the town board salary is in effect is $700 and not $7,000. So that was corrected in the memo as well. Okay, were there other comments? Bill Brown.
Yeah, I would agree that with Danielle that the town board is spending more time now. And it's not just the hour during the meeting. It's the 40 or 50 pages of reading you do before the meeting. And when it comes to budget time, that's always a big discussion. A lot of times the social service funding involves quite a bit of research too. So I think it's probably worth paying the town board something. But 4 years ago, I was in favor of taking it away because the meetings were short, and the town board wasn't doing as much. And Dennis won't be on the town board next year. I won't. But I think, for the people that are on, it makes sense to pay a little more for the town board meetings.
By the way, I'd like to add, it's already been an hour.
Yeah.
We're well aware of that.
The other thing, just if you want to start, splitting hairs and making it $40 or something, the more time we talk about it, we have like 10 staff on comp time right now. So we're just spending staff time talking about it. So we're going to end up spending more staff time than it's worth savings.
Are there any other comments? Are you ready to vote? Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll? So we have, and just to clarify, we have a motion on the floor for the lower of the 2 proposals with the corrections as sent out this afternoon. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu,
Yes.
Miss Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
I'll say okay. Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. Okay, under new business, we have resolution T20-11-021R, which is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign an agreement with the city of Urbana for emergency solutions grant COVID for CTSO's rapid rehousing bridge to home program.
So briefly, but it's also very exciting. We've been in the planning phase for about 3 months of a new rapid rehousing program for the homeless called Bridge to Home. And we are positioned to receive up to $220,000 in ESG funds. We intend to reapply for ESG funds next year. These are COVID funds, but we plan to apply for the standard. It is a gap in our community. We don't have enough organizations in Champaign County applying for ESG funds and providing rapid rehousing. So Township has stepped into that space. This would allow us to partner with the city of Urbana to receive that emergency solutions grant, which we think will come any day now. So this will kind of pre-authorize me to sign it and get things moving.
Great. Can we get a motion to get this item on the floor? Jared?
I'll make that motion. I'll move resolution number T2020-11-21R, resolution authorizing supervisor to sign an agreement with the city of Urbana for an emergency solutions grant for CTO's rapid rehousing bridge to home program be approved.
I'll second that.
Moved by Jared, seconded by Mary Alice. Is there further discussion? Mary Alice.
So Danielle, you had said that the grant was like 230,000. Is that right?
So it's 220,000 if we receive both round 1 and round 2 ESG COVID funds. We've been approved so far for round 1, and you'll see that the dollar figure is 128.7 in the agreement. And then we expect round 2 to come shortly.
So this resolution would allow you to do both rounds.
Actually, it would only allow us to cover round 1 because we haven't even been approved by Continuum of Service Providers, the homeless, because of various process things with IDHS. So we will come back to you for round 2.
Okay, so this is really 129,000.
Yes, it's 128.7 is what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Well, are we ready to vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. And I can't emphasize enough how much time that the township and the city's grants management and economic development staff spend applying for funds, processing funds, administering these COVID grants. It's an exhausting, complicated process, and it's, you know, it's rewarding in that the funds come to the city, but it is not without an enormous amount of work. So
Yes, the city takes the administrative fee from it, and we are eternally grateful to Sheila Dodd and Alyssa Jage, who have done a great job of partnering with us on this and helping us navigate those systems.
Yeah, they've become experts. Okay, next up is resolution number T2020-11-022R, which is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign an agreement, NJS Enterprises, for case management software.
So we will submit this and the last one that you approved last month for Cure Act funding, but as I increase staff, we're not able to actually do our jobs because we don't have enough access to case management seats. So I'm adding another seat, and both the staff members' time and the seats should be eligible under Cure Act based on my conversations with DCO. So I'm just asking for your approval.
Bill Brown?
I'll move approval of resolution number T2020-11-022R, resolution authorizing supervisor to sign an agreement with NJS Enterprises for case management software.
I'll second that.
I'm gonna give that second to Sharice this time. So moved by Bill Brown, seconded by Sharice. Discussion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. Next up is Resolution T 2020-11-023R, a resolution authorizing Cunningham Township Supervisor to sign a contract for flexible spending account for health insurance coverage with key benefit administrators.
So each year we request approval to set up to renew the FSA. We've had it for 2 years now. And it allows our staff to realize a pre-tax benefit in their health savings accounts.
There a motion to put this item on the table, on the floor?
I'll move.
Oh, go ahead, Sharice. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I should have raised my hand. I'll move for resolution T 2020-11-023R, resolution authorizing the Cunningham Township Supervisor to sign a contract for flexible spending account for health insurance coverage with key benefit administrators for approval.
Okay, I'll do the seconding then.
Moved by Sharice, seconded by Dennis. Any discussion? Mary Alice?
So Danielle, I didn't look up what we did last year. Is this the same rate for flexible spending accounts that we had for last year, the $27.50?
I think
It's the same rate for this year.
so. I believe it's yeah.
I mean, the only thing that'll change is if there's more participation, it'll go up per participant, or if there's less participation, it'll go down per participant. But the admin fee is the same, and yeah.
But the employee amount that is being offered is the same as last year.
Well, we don't offer any financial benefit. We
Sure.
allow the employee to set aside up to a certain amount pre-tax, and then we basically just pay the admin fees, overall admin fee, and then a per participant admin fee.
Thank you for that correction.
Yep.
Any other questions? Any discussion? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. Last item on the agenda is a closed session. So I believe the city clerk will email a link to the board members. So we will leave this meeting, enter the closed session meeting, and then we will come back into this meeting for adjournment. Is that correct, Phyllis and Wendy?
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll look for the link in emails.
Yeah.
And we need a motion to go into the closed session.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second that.
Motion by Bill Colebrook, seconded by Mary Alice. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
I think he left already.
Okay. Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Is there a motion then to leave closed session and enter an open session again?
So moved.
I'll
Second.
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 Bill Brown, and who did the second?
Mary Alice.
Mary Alice Wu. All right, those are go. Okay, would you please call the roll?
I'm going to tell you the honest truth, Dennis, you don't need to call the roll for an adjournment.
Let's
Oh.
go back into open session.
Oh,
This is a good back in open session.
Okay.
to back into open session, yeah.
All right, just a second.
I guess we have to have you call the roll.
Okay, you really must. Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay, I guess that's approved, and meet you back in the main room.
Actually, you're in the main room, so
We're in the
nobody.
main room.
Yep. So you just need a motion to adjourn.
Okay, how about a motion to adjourn?
I think we can just adjourn, can't we?
Yeah, can we do it? All right, I'll just announce it. We're adjourned. Having the meeting,
Okay,
the meeting
awesome.
having been finished, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
It's kinda
Okay.
confusing.